Hi everyone, it's MJ from Bible Intelligence, and we're back to the book of Revelations. This time we're in chapter 6 with our new Revelation GPT. I've asked it to draw the lamb with the 7 eyes and the 7 horns. I also wanted it to be slain, but ChatGPT, I think they gave me an error because you're not allowed to create violent images. So unfortunately, we weren't able to see the lamb in its slain position, which symbolizes, of course, the whole sacrifice. And here we have this illustration. It looks very cool, completely inaccurate. I mean, we've got that's not even just 7 eyes, that is a lot of eyes, and they need to be on the lamb, and the lamb also needs to have the 7 horns. But still a cool image nonetheless. So yes, we're using Revelation GPT, which is a custom chat GPT to help us interpret the book of Revelation. It can also draw images. We're having a lot of fun with it. This is chapter 6. Let's jump into verse 1. It says, "And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures saying with a voice of thunder, 'Come.'" I remember listening to the audio version of this Bible, and this was a very scary scene. They keep saying "come" and all these type of things. "And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat thereon had a bow, and there was given unto him a crown, and he came forth conquering and to conquer." Okay, chapter 6 is about, of course, the 4 horsemen. So this one is, let's draw the white horse with a rider with a bow and a crown ready to conquer. And we're going to say draw this. So here we have the first horseman from the book of Revelations. Now, what I'm doing is, of course, I'm cutting the video just so that you guys don't have to wait for these images to load. But let's also ask it for the significance of this white horse. Explain the significance of, spelling's all over the place, of the white horse with the bow and crown. Okay. But yeah, that does look pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, there's 4 horsemen, and yeah, let's not have any spoilers on what the others look like. It's even saying it is the first of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and holds significant symbolic meaning. So the white horse, the color in biblical symbolism, is often associated with purity, righteousness, and victory. Now, in the context of the 4 horsemen, however, the interpretations vary. Some see the white horse as representing Christ or the spread of the gospel due to the association of Christ with the white horse in Revelations 19:11. Others interpret it as a symbol of conquest and deceptive peace, as the rider is given a crown and sets out to conquer. So that's interesting. Some views is that this white horse is symbolic of Christ. The others is that no, this is going to be a little bit of a false peace. Now, the rider with a bow. The rider carries a bow, an instrument of war and conquest. Unlike the other riders who wields a sword, scales, and scythe, the bow may imply a form of conquest that is not necessarily reliant on outright violence. This has led some to interpret this rider as a symbol of deceptive peace or conquest through diplomacy and subterfuge. Now, the crown, which in Greek is Stephanos, given to the rider, suggests authority and triumph. In the ancient world, a crown was a reward for victory and a sign of honor. The granting of the crown here indicates that the rider is empowered to achieve his goals of conquest. In conquest, the rider's mission to conquer reinforces the theme of dominion and control. This can be interpreted in various ways as a reference to the political and military conquests that were common in the era when Revelation was written, or as a metaphor for spiritual or ideological conquest. Then our big word that we've been going through these videos, the eschatological interpretation. In eschatological terms, this rider is often seen as a figure heralding the end times, representing the onset of events that will lead to the final judgment and the establishment of a new order. Now, contrast with later revelations, the depiction of Jesus on the white horse in Revelations 19:11 leads to these contrasting interpretations. Some see a deliberate contrast between the false peace or deceptive conquest of the first rider and the true victory of Christ later in the text. In summary, the white horse and its rider symbolizes conquest and possibly deceptive peace, serving as a harbinger of the beginning of the end times in the apocalyptic narrative of Revelation. Now, the interpretation varies among scholars, with some seeing as a representation of Christ or the gospel, and others as a symbol of earthly or spiritual conquest. And I guess, if you look at the text, there isn't any words to say, the good white horse or the evil white horse. It's just like, it's a white horse. And we'll quickly have one last look at our image before we move on. Definitely does look very cool. I'm quite impressed with that image. That image does look pretty sweet. And he opened the second seal, and I heard the second living creature saying, "Come." It's so cool how these, the four living creatures call upon the four horsemen. Wow, what a scene. And another horse came forth, a red horse, and to him that sat thereon it was given to take peace from the earth, and that they should slay one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. So let me quickly cut the video and jump straight to the red horse image, because it takes a few seconds for these things to generate the image. Okay, and Revelations GPT has created our red horse. Looks incredibly scary, something like from that game Diablo or something like that. The sword's a little bit weird. That is not how I would design a sword. That looks like the handles going into the arm. And of course, these are AI generated images and they sometimes get it wrong. But still, nonetheless, that is a pretty cool horse. So we've been told about this red horse. Let's ask it for the significance of the red horse. And remember, you can use Revelations GPT. The link is either in the description, on the Patreon account, in the video title, wherever you're watching this video. I'll hopefully make it or give some clear signs on how to get to Revelations GPT. And then if you have a GPT Plus subscription, although some of my friends have been able to use it without the Plus subscription, you can come in, you can draw your own images, you can ask it your own questions, and it's been specifically designed to assist you with the book of Revelations. And that's why we can just say significance of the red horse, and it will give us this whole full breakdown, where if you'd gone to a normal GPT and said significance of a red horse, it's not going to know that you're talking about the book of Revelations, and it's not going to know, how to do a nice breakdown to give a nice understanding of the text. With that said, let's jump into what Revelations GPT is saying. The red horse, introduced as the second of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, carries significant symbolism. Okay, let's talk about the color. The color red is often associated with blood, war, and violence. In the context of the apocalypse, the red horse symbolizes widespread warfare and bloodshed. The great sword. The rider of the red horse is given a great sword, which reinforces the theme of war and conflict. A sword is a universal symbol of battle and aggression, and its description as great amplifies the extent and severity of the warfare envisioned. Now, taking the peace from the earth. This passage specifically states that the rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. This indicates a breakdown of societal order and the eruption of conflict on a large scale. The interpretations of war. Now, different interpretations see this horseman as representing either the reality of warfare throughout human history or a specific period of intensified conflict preceding the end times. Some see it as a symbol of destructive power of sin and evil, leading to discord and violence among people. Now, contrast with the first horseman. Well, the first horseman, the white horse, is often associated with conquest, possibly through deceptive means. The second horse explicitly brings open warfare. This progression from conquest to war reflects a common pattern in human history, where the desire for power and control often leads to armed conflict. And our eschatological significance, the red horse is seen as part of the unfolding events leading to the final judgment and the establishment of new divine order. It represents one of the various trials and tribulations that will mark the end times. So in summary, the red horse and its rider symbolize war and the resulting bloodshed and conflict. This imagery serves to illustrate the severity and destructive nature of human conflict, especially in the context of the end times as depicted in the book of Revelation. Let's have another look at our red horse. Okay, the next verse, verse 5, it says, "And when he opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, 'Come.' And I saw, behold, a black horse, and he sat thereon, had a balance in his hand. And I heard, as it were, a voice in the midst of the four living creatures, a measure of wheat for a shilling, and 3 measures of barley for a shilling, and the oil and the wine hurt thou not." That's a very interesting verse. But let's start up here with verse 5. We've got the black horse. So first of all, let's ask it to draw the third horse from, let's say, yeah, draw the third black horse. And I think that's all we have to actually say, because it's not saying that it's, and he sat thereon, had a balance. Oh, we didn't ask it to draw the balance. So hold on, it's hit stop. I was like, a balance, giving me a bit confused. In other translations, it'll say a scale. So let's say, draw a black horse where its rider is holding a scale. Okay, and we're gonna cut to when the image has been drawn. Ooh, that looks very cool. I mean, again, the AI is messing up just a little bit, this discontinuance, but it's kind of cool that this theme is happening with all of them. That looks like that thing from Lord of the Rings, where that Frodo has to run away from. But wow, that is actually a very, very cool image. Sorry, when I first read it and it had a balance in his hand, it didn't make sense to me. And then, of course, we're reading from one of the old translations, so that the text is copyright free. Because you can go and you can buy this as a book. So on Amazon, we've actually got this as a book, or I'll get you guys the PDF. I'll put it on Patreon or Udemy or wherever you guys are watching this. And then it's great. You can actually make your annotations. If you've got a digital pen on an iPad, could be a great way to do it. Or if you want the physical copy, I'll put links to Amazon. And then you can actually read through this and make your either notes or draw your own horses. That could look really, really, really cool. But wow, that's quite an awesome image. I'm not gonna lie. Like, even though it's getting this disconnection, it almost brings the whole ethereal element to it. Anyway, the whole point of us making the images was to save time, and here I am, like, seeing it for the first time and freaking out. But let's ask for the significance of the black horse and scales. And let's see what Revelations GPT has to say. But that one is scary. I don't know, if you had to meet one of the 4 horsemen, I mean, the white one's looking like the best one to meet. The red one and the black one is kind of like, oh my gosh, these are nightmares. So the black horse and its rider with scales presents as the third of the 4 horsemen in the Revelation 6:5-6, carries profound symbolism and meaning. Okay, so yeah, it does carry over to verse 6. So a black horse, and he sat thereon, had a balance in his hand. And I heard, as it were, a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, "A measure of wheat for a shilling, and 3 measures of barley for a shilling, and the oil and the wine hurt thou not." Wow, that is cryptic. We're gonna have to get AI to help us with whatever that means. But let's first go through the black horseman, and then we'll get to this measure of shilling and 3 measures of barley. I don't know, maybe it's a recipe for something. But the color symbolism. So the black color of the horse traditionally symbolizes famine, scarcity, and death. So it's almost like after a war, there's, the earth has been scorched, everything's been broken. It tends to lead to this period of famine. So the black colors, famine, death, in the context of the apocalypse, it represents a period of severe famine and economic hardship. Now, the scales in the rider's hands are significant. In ancient times, scales were used to measure and ration food, especially during times of scarcity. So in the vision, the scales symbolized the careful rationing of food due to extreme scarcity and famine. Now, the act of weighing and measuring foodstuff is a direct reference to the scarcity and careful distribution of basic necessities. Economic hardships. Okay, this is 6.6. This is what I love about this AI. We just told it, tell us about the black horse, and it's going to come here and it's going to tell us about the wheat, the barley, and the oil, and all the things that go forth. Hence why I say, really cool how we could make a custom GPT to focus on the book of Revelations for us. So the mention of wheat, barley, oil, and wine at specific prices points to economic distress. The specified quantities and prices suggest that basic food items will become scarce and expensive, making it difficult for people to afford them. This passage implies hyperinflation or extreme economic conditions where basic substances becomes a costly commodity. And of course, I don't know my ancient prices too well, so when I heard a measure of wheat for $1, I didn't know if that was expensive or not. So thank you, AI, for just giving me a little economic lesson on ancient biblical times. Social inequality. The command not to harm the oil and wine might indicate social inequality during this time of famine. Oil and wine were often associated with wealthier classes, suggesting that while the poor suffer greatly, the wealthy might still enjoy some luxuries. And the oil and the wine hurt thou not. And how often do we see that critique in today's world where we keep saying, this great divide between the haves and the have-nots, and how the rich are getting richer, even while so many people around our world, continue to starve. The eschatological interpretations in the broader narrative of Revelations, the black horse and its rider are seen as part of the unfolding events leading to the end times. Now, this horseman represents one of the many trials and tribulations that signify the approach of the final judgment. And if we were to contrast this with the other horsemen, each horseman represents a different aspect of the tribulation preceding the end times. If the first symbolizes conquest and the second war, the third horseman, with its emphasis on famine and economic hardship, portrays a natural consequence that often follow in the wake of war and conquest. In summary, the black horse and its rider with scales symbolize a period of famine and economic hardship, reflecting the severe trials and tribulations that are part of the apocalyptic vision in the book of Revelations. Now, I have completely forgotten what color is the fourth horseman going to be. We've got white, we've got red, we've got black. Blue, brown? I don't know. What is the fourth horseman's color going to be? And when he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature saying, "Come." Okay, who's coming now? Oh, a pale horse. That's kind of like a white horse, isn't it? And I saw and behold a pale horse, and he that sat upon him, his name was Death. Ooh. And Hades followed with him. And there was given unto them authority over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with famine, and with death, and by the wild beasts of the earth. Wow. If you're not going to have it, I hope you guys aren't listening to this late at night, because that is nightmare material. Okay, so let's draw the pale horse with the rider of death, and Hades following him. Should we tell him to have the sword, or should we let's just see what it draws with that? We can always draw it again if we don't like the image, but I'll cut to the image. Okay, let's see this image together, and that is scary. That's a nightmare image right there. You can see why the book of Revelations really freaks people out, because that almost looks like the White Walker's horse from Game of Thrones. And I love how I'm referencing each of these horses to some of the fantasy shows that I've seen. But I think that's very much the case is fantasy, and a lot of the fiction that we have today, a lot of our cultural things are so heavily influenced by the Bible, and of course the book of Revelation is such a huge impact. But check out that death. You've got the skeleton foot coming over, you got Hades in the background with what looks like a feather weapon. I don't know how deadly the feather weapon is, but look at all the scary things in the background. That's pretty cool. And okay, where were we? We are now on verse 9. So almost halfway, but I'll try, we'll see. I think the four horsemen are the crucial part of this chapter. And when he opened the fifth seal, oh gosh, remember, because there's 7 seals. So the first 4 seals have just released these horses. Like, well, we've got the cavalry. What's coming after this? And when he opened the 5th seal, I saw underneath the altar the souls of them that had been slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. Wow. That is crazy. Let's actually say chapter 6, verse 9, explain. Boom. And like I say, it knows it's talking about Revelations, so we can just go straight into it. Revelation 6:9 opens the 5th seal in John's vision of the heavenly scrolls. And I mean, the first 4 seals have released these horses, and the 5th seal is releasing the souls under the altar. So under the altar, the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and the testimony that they had maintained. Whew! I'm getting freaked out here. Martyrdom. The souls seen are those of the martyrs, individuals who have died for their faith, particularly for their allegiance to the word of God and their testimony. In early Christian context, this would have resonated deeply as many believers faced persecution and martyrdom. Okay, under the altar. Now, the location of the souls under the altar is symbolic. In the temple worship of ancient Israel, the altar was a place of sacrifice. So this placement signifies that these martyrs' deaths are seen as sacrifices to God, echoing the sacrificial language used throughout the New Testament to describe Jesus' death. Now, the subsequent verses, let's maybe read them, Revelation 6:10 and 6:11. And they cried with a great voice, saying, How long, O Master, the holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And there was given them to each one a white robe, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little time, until their fellow servants also and their brethren, who should be killed even as they were, should have fulfilled their course. Woohoo! Okay, let's get back to it. Describe these souls crying out for God to judgment and to avenge their blood on those who dwell on the earth. Now, this reflects a common biblical theme of the righteous calling out for God's justice. Now, the martyrs are given white robes and told to wait a little longer until the full number of their fellow servants and brothers and sisters were to be killed as they had been. Man, that is scary. That is, yeah. Good thing I'm recording this in the morning, my time zone, because it would be so difficult to go to sleep after this. Wow, okay, that is just, yeah. So this suggests an ongoing process of persecution and martyrdom and points to an eventual divine response and vindication. Now, this passage touches on themes of divine justice, the cost of faithfulness, the reality of persecution, and the hope of vindication. It offers a powerful message to its original readers and hearers that their suffering is known to God and that God's justice will ultimately prevail. I mean, man, there's a lot of encouragement in that. Like, let's just read that again. That your suffering is known to God and that God's justice will ultimately prevail. Revelation 6:9, therefore, is a poignant portrayal of the cost of discipleship and the hope of ultimate justice and redemption, themes that resonate throughout the book of Revelations. Ooh. Okay, now we're opening the 6th seal. Wow, we've only done 5. We've got 2 more. Let's see what happens from the 6th seal. And I saw when he opened the 6th seal, and there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the whole moon became as blood. Damn. Okay, we need to draw this image, and I'll join back with you guys. We'll cut to the image being drawn. So this is crazy. The AI does not want to draw a black sun. Well, you can see even here, I said draw a black sun, a blood moon, and the ground break from an earthquake. It's like, nope, that doesn't align with our content policy. So I thought, okay, maybe the blood moon. So we went with a red moon. It says, nope, that still goes against our content. I said an earthquake with a dark sky. It says, nope, we're not doing that. I said, okay, just draw a black sun. And it's like, nope, we're not doing that. So I get it. AI needs to have censorship to prevent people from creating like horrible images and everything like that. Sometimes it can be annoying. It can get in the way of us trying to visualize everything that's happening. But I just find it fascinating. It won't draw a black sun, which, let's admit, it's just like a black circle with, I don't know, whatever it was going to look like. but it's happy to draw death on a horse. So it'll draw death on a horse with all these souls coming up to eat you. But it's like, we're not going to draw a black sun, which, like I say, could have been a black circle. So unfortunately, we are going to just move on, and hopefully we'll get cool images, for the rest of it. Because verse 13 says, and the stars, we might not have got the image, but let's get the significance of it. So let's say, the significance of chapter 6, verse 12. So it's sometimes the AI will do this, sometimes it won't. I mean, I wonder if I was to put that into Mid-Journey to see if we would get an image. Let's actually quickly see if we can do that. Okay, let's see if Mid-Journey will draw a black sun, a blood moon, and the ground breaking from an earthquake. We want to make it very dramatic. Let's see if Mid-Journey will do that. And you can see, I was busy drawing some churches. In fact, I wanted to have the mega church next to a traditional cathedral, and it kind of like combined the two. So that was for the other video I've made, where we looked at there only being two types of churches: those that see baptism and the Holy Communion as a sacrament, and those that see it as an ordinance. So the sacrament is that it actually contains the divine grace of God. The other is that it is merely symbolic, that we do out of obedience for God. But we are getting images from Mid-Journey, so that is very cool. Okay, so this also can be a nice reason why you want to have multiple AIs, because when the one AI doesn't want to draw what you want it to draw, this one can then draw it over here. It looks scary, I'm not gonna lie. Like that, those images do look pretty intense. I mean, especially that one. Wow, it's like the blood moon, earthquake. It does look like hell. Like when you think of hell, that's kind of one of those scary images that comes about. Anyway, let's jump straight back into Revelations chapter 6. But yes, we finally did get an image. Okay, we're just going to ask it again because it kind of cut off there. Of course, the AI, in very early days, these little bugs tend to happen. But the significance of chapter 6, verse 12 describes the opening of the sixth seal, and it reads, as I watched open the sixth seal, there was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair, and the whole moon turned blood red. Our translation is the sackcloth of hair. There they got a goat hair. Now, the great earthquakes are frequently used in the Bible as a symbol of divine intervention, judgment, and shaking of the established order. So a great earthquake here signifies a major upheaval, both literally and figuratively indicating the significant changes or judgment from God. Now, the darkening of the sun to black like sackcloth, a coarse, dark fabric, typically symbolizes a dimming of light and hope. In biblical prophecy, celestial disturbances often signify the seriousness of the moment and the divine nature of the events. Now we had to get the blood moon back. The blood moon is a potent celestial sign. In biblical literature, blood often symbolizes life, death, and sacrifice. So a blood red moon can symbolize the loss of life or great sacrifice, and is often interpreted as a sign of significant divine action or judgment. I know when Mehmed was from the Ottomans kind of coming in to conquer Constantinople from the Christians, he kind of planned his attack to be done on like a blood moon, which he believed would, and it actually did. It started freaking out the Christians because they had seen this Bible verse, and now this great army was attacking them on this blood moon, and they thought, oh, this is an omen, we're not going to win. And of course, Mehmed would take over Constantinople and rename it to Istanbul, which now belongs in Turkey. So, and that was when was Mehmed? 15th century? I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Comic disturbance. The combination of an earthquake, a blackened sun, and a blood red moon emphasize the cosmic and universal nature of the events in Revelations. These signs suggest that the events are not just local or historical, but have cosmic and spiritual significance. So this verse, like much of Revelations, is steeped in eschatological, which are the end times themes, and these cosmic signs are often interpreted as heralding the final judgment and the coming of a new divine order. And it's so fascinating to contrast these two worldviews. The whole Christian worldview is that we're the center of the universe because, center as in figuratively, the universe is so huge, no one actually knows where the center of it would. Well, I don't know, maybe scientists do. But the point is that we believe that we are the most significant things in the universe. God created us to bear his image, and the whole of the universe is designed to, for us. So the sun changes colors and the moon changes colors depending on what happens here on earth. And it ultimately shows our significance, our meaning, and how important of a role we place in God's, worldview. Whereas then you've got the scientific worldview, which is like, oh, we're just a pale blue dot. We're just an insignificant speck in this grand universe. And it leaves that whole nihilistic feeling of, the sun's going to blow up eventually, all life's going to be wiped out, but the universe is just going to go on, and be bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's crazy how, like I say, you read Revelations, and the fact that these celestial objects kind of, they change depending on what happens on earth, just shows how significant humans are and how much meaning and purpose our lives contain from the Christian point of view, where, like I say, the scientists have disenchanted and sterilized all that type of thinking, which unfortunately has led a lot of people into a nihilistic depression. And like I said, sorry, a little bit off topic over here. But coming back, the Old Testament echoes. This imagery has roots in the Old Testament prophetic literature, where similar signs are used to depict God's judgment. For instance, Joel 2:31. And I remember there was even that moment where Joshua is fighting the battle, and as long as his hands are up, the sun stays still. Or there's that whole part in Isaiah where he's giving the prophecy to Hezekiah, and the sundial moves backwards. So there's a lot of celestial things in the Old Testament. I'm not familiar with Joel 2:31. Let's see what happens in Joel 2:31. John's audience familiar with these texts would understand these symbols as indicating a momentous divine act. Revelation 6:12, therefore, is a vivid portrayal of divine judgment and the dramatic shift in the cosmic order, reflecting the overarching themes of judgment and redemption in the book of Revelations. Oh yeah, Joel 2:31. It literally says, the sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and dreadful day of the Lord comes. Like, boom. You almost feel like, John, dude, if you were writing this for school, the teacher's going to mark you for plagiarism. Like, you have to have your little reference there saying, I'm getting this from Joel 2:31, because, how is that? The sun will turn to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And this dreadful day of the Lord, as we saw earlier, is symbolized by this earthquake, black sun, blood moon. Wow. Really, really cool. Jesus also refers to similar signs in the heaven in his discourse, Matthew 24:29. Let's see what Matthew 24:29 has to say. Come on, Revelation, GPT. Okay, immediately after the stress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. And I think talking about stars is what happens next. And the stars of the heaven fell onto the earth as a fig tree casteth her unripe figs when she is shaken of a great wind. And it's crazy because, of course, Jesus and the fig tree, there's such a, symbolism there. But the stars of heaven falling unto earth. I kind of feel like this one doesn't want to draw, but we'll get Midjourney to draw it as well. Draw stars of the heaven falling unto earth. Let's get Matthew's still going, so let's just get that image. And while it's doing that, let's also pause. I'll also do it in Midjourney just in case Revelations GPT says that goes against their content policy. So these are some of the images that we're getting from Midjourney, and it looks pretty cool. Let's see what we got from Revelations. And oh, look, it did give us an image. Wow, that is very cool. That is cool. Okay, when Revelations GPT decides to draw images for us, I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty sweet, they're pretty epic. I like that a lot. So let's just say chapter 6, verse 13, significance. That, because we've got stars, we've got fig, we've got a great wind. There's a lot of imagery, just wow, so much packed into these things. And that's why, like, you'll see from like my earlier videos where we were trying to like draw and describe and do all of these kind of things. Here it's, I don't know, I prefer having maybe this approach, because yeah, to generate images like that, that's very, very cool. Wow. I mean, yeah, we should maybe make a visual, but like I said, the images, they're not accurate, but they do kind of help a little bit. But yeah, like a book of Revelations with the images. So yeah, Revelation 6:13, and the stars in the sky fell to earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. Okay, the imagery of stars falling from the sky is a common motive in apocalyptic literature, symbolizing major upheavals and divine intervention. In ancient times, celestial events were often seen as signs of omens, particularly relating to the significant changes or judgment. Now, the comparison to figs falling from a fig tree during a strong wind emphasizes the sense of natural disaster and upheaval. In the Bible, the fig tree is often used symbolically, and here it serves to illustrate the suddenness and inevitability of the event described. Now, the falling of the stars reflects the idea that the events of the end time will affect not just the earth, but the cosmos as a whole. It's a way of expressing that the events are of a cosmic significance, transcending normal human experience. Now, in the broader context of Revelation, this verse and the opening of the sixth seal are associated with the final judgment. The cosmic signs are seen as precursors to the ultimate establishment of God's kingdom and the final judgment of the world. While some may interpret this literally as stars, astronomy falling to Earth, most scholars see this as symbolic language. Considering the vast size and distance of stars, the language is more likely metaphorical, depicting a great shaking or disturbance in the divine order. I mean, it could also be like a meteor shower, like asteroids. Doesn't asteroid literally translate as little star, even though I know they're not technically little stars, they're made of rock and ice, and stars are made out of gas. But asteroids astra is the Greek word or some word for star. So it could mean asteroids, or meteorites, or I don't know, my astronomy is failing me here. And the Old Testament echoes. This image is also remnants of a prophetic passage in the Old Testament. Oh, we need to see what Isaiah 34:4 is saying here. Because that's right in the heart, right in the middle of Isaiah, which speaks of the heavens being rolled up and their starry host falling. John's audience familiar with these texts would recognize the continuity with these prophetic themes. So Revelation 6:13 uses dramatic, I'm struggling here, guys, apocalyptic imagery to convey the magnitude of the events accompanying the end times, highlighting the cosmic scale of God's judgment and the transformative nature of these events. So Isaiah 34:4 says, all the stars in the sky will be dissolved and the heavens rolled up like a scroll. Wait, isn't this a whole scroll that is being opened up? Wow. And all the starry hosts will fall like withered leaves from the vine, like shriveled figs from the fig tree. No. Again, like, wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, we've got Joel, now we've got Isaiah, we've got all these segments of the Old Testament coming together to form this chapter in Revelations. And this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. We're not going to go into Isaiah 34:4 into more detail, because I kind of feel like it's chapter 6:13 basically saying the same thing. That's crazy. We're almost done. I think we got verse 14, we got verse 15, we got verse 16, and verse 17 is very short, and then we're on chapter 7. So let's do it. Let's push through. Let's get each of these videos for one chapter at a time. I know we're going in quite long here, but let's keep going. and the heaven was removed as a scroll. This is continuing this idea. And the heavens rolled up like a scroll, and the heaven was removed as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. What does Isaiah? That is incredible. What is Isaiah 34, 5-7? Like, what is the rest of Isaiah saying? Like, does it just move on, or what does it keep saying after that? Because boom, that's the fig, the scroll, the falling from the heaven. Like, those are three things. Just wow. My sword has drunk its fill in the heavens. It descends for judgment upon Edom, the people I have totally destroyed. Verse 6, the sword of the Lord is bathed in blood. It is covered with fat, the blood of lambs and goats, fat from the kidneys of rams. For the Lord has a sacrifice in Bozrah and a great slaughter. Wow, this is crazy. And the wild oxen will fall with them, and the bull calves and the great bulls. Their land will be drenched with blood, and the dust will be soaked with fat. Now, there's no way that this AI is going to draw that image. That's definitely going to inflict on the content policy over there. But wow, okay, Isaiah, that is, woo, that's it's using vivid graphic imagery. Like, there's a reason why you probably didn't hear that in Sunday school. Let's go to verse 15. We're almost towards the end. And the kings of the earth and the princes and the chief captains and the rich and the strong and every bondman and freeman hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains. And they say to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. The wrath of the Lamb. And 17, for the great day of their wrath is come, and who is able to stand? Okay, let's end off by getting explaining these verses together. Explain chapter 6, verses 15 to 17 in one go. I think 15, 16, 17. And we're gonna, we'll end after this final prompt to Revelations GPT. And look, this is only the sixth seal, which means chapter 7 is maybe going to open, after this I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth. Ooh, okay, let's not jump ahead too much. Let's finish up with this, and then we're going to wrap up this video. It's been long, but I hope you guys have enjoyed it. So Revelation 6, 15 to 17 depicts the culmination of the 6th seal opening, providing a dramatic picture of humanity's response to the unfolding divine judgment. Now, verse 15, then the kings of the earth. Okay, we've read that. This is this universal impact. So this verse emphasizes that the judgment affects all levels of society, from the most powerful to the most vulnerable, and no one is exempt from this judgment, signifying its universal and inescapable nature. Now, the people's plea to the mountains and the rock to hide them illustrates their terror and desperation. They recognize the divine source of their plight, him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of wrath. Is it wrath or wrath? I don't know. Depends which accent I want to put on. But this final verse underscores the momentous of the events. The great day refers to a time of divine judgment and retribution, a reoccurring theme in biblical prophetic literature. The rhetoric question, who can with it stand, highlights the power and why can't I speak anymore, of God's judgment, inevitability of God's judgment. It implies that no one can escape or resist when the time of divine judgment arrives. In summary, Revelation 6, 15, 17 vividly describes the fear and desperation of humanity in the face of God's judgment. It underscores the universality of this event, affecting all people regardless of their social status, and the inescapable nature of divine judgment. This passage serves to emphasize the severity of the final judgment and the power of God and the Lamb, which is Christ. So we're going to be picking this up a little bit later when we move to chapter 7, but I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys again soon. Keep well. Cheers.